Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, we're going to look at sending photos to Facebook friends. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to jump over to our login activity, and we need to add in another permission. So right now we're just asking for the email permission, right? But we need to ask for the user friends permission. So this is going to let us see all of the friends that have installed our app. So if I have maybe 100 friends and then 10 of those friends have installed this photo share application, then we're going to see those 10 friends. So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump over here to the Facebook Graph API documentation. So the way we can access all of this Facebook data is basically by using this Graph API. So this is a very thorough API. You can access, look at all of this. So you can access accounts, achievements, activities, albums. You can access pretty much anything so long as you ask for the correct permission and so long as the user grants you that permission. You can jump over to, like, for example, this Graph API Explorer, and you can run some of these GET requests by yourself. You need an access token, of course, but if you have that, then you can just run those requests. So first thing we're going to do is we can literally just copy this code that they provide us. And when we save the photo, let's jump to Parse. So let's think about what we're going to do. So we're going to save the photo, right? When we save the photo, or before we save the photo, we need people to target the photo to. If we have people to target the photo to, then we'll proceed to save it to Parse, right? So let's just jump over here. So this is the critical field that we need. We need this target field. This target field is just going to contain Parse users. Now the great thing about Parse and Facebook is that it automatically hooks up Facebook users to Parse users, right? So if we know that the friends that we're looking at have this app installed, then these user objects will have already been populated with Facebook user data. Okay, so let's go here now. And what we're going to do is we're going to fetch the friends. So let me write this out right here. So we're just gonna test this out. We're gonna log the actual string response right now. We're not actually going to go into too much depth, but we just want to log this response right now. And so let's look at the parameters. The first parameter is the access token. The second parameter is the path. Then it's a bundle of parameters. So if you've used like a post request before, for example, then you know that you want to pass in some keys and values for your parameters. Maybe you want to pass in like an email and password. In our case, we're fetching stuff, right? So we don't actually need to pass any more parameters in besides the access token. Let's see here. So now the HTTP method is get. This corresponds to get, post, and delete methods. And now we have a callback method that will be called when we actually get the response. All right, so now let's look at the stuff we can access in the response object. So it's basically a JSON array or a JSON object. You can also fetch the raw response, which is just a string. In our case, let's see here, we're just going to grab the JSON object. Let's see here, let me just double check. So a user is required, and yeah, I think we're good. So what we're going to do now is so we want, let's see here, response JSON. So I'm not going to name these these aren't very good names, but just for testing purposes, I want to see what we get. So then we are going to log it, and we're going to log it to the error stream, even though it's not really an error. It's just, I generally like to, whenever I'm testing stuff really quickly, I just log stuff to log.e because it's a lot more filtered. You get a lot less input or content from other applications or from the rest of your application. So then it's going to be log.e, we're going to do photo, share, and we're just going to do response. ToString. So we'll just convert the JSON to a string, and I think we should be good. Okay, so that should be response JSON right there. Okay, so now we're fetching the friends after we've taken the photo. I'm actually just going to put this up here at the beginning of our main activity, so we don't actually have to click anything. It'll just automatically fetch the friends whenever the activity starts, which is ideal because we're just testing right now. And let's see here. So this should run on my device any second now. There we go. So I'm going to run it. And let's give it a little bit. I believe I'm already logged in. Alright, I should be logged in. So we went through that whole fiasco. Okay, so now we should let me jump over to the error stream. So this is what I mean, right? There's a lot of data right here, and so if we jump over to the error stream, there's a lot less stuff we have to look at, and we see that we have a JSON object with the data field, but that we don't actually have any friends, and this is because right now I am the only user using this application, right? I'm pretty lonely right now. I don't have anybody else who's using this application, and indeed we only have one user. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to test this is we're going to jump over to the app and we're going to create some test users. So the way you do this is you go to roles and you go to test users, right? So we already have one test user right here. Let me check. This is the correct application. So yeah, this is photo share, right? I'm going to go roles, test users. And I'm just going to add a couple, and then we'll just have these test users friend each other. So we're going to create, let's say, 4 test users. We're going to authorize these test users, yes, and then they're going to have this. And test users will be granted these permissions. So let's see, we're not going to do anything else. I'm just going to create these test users. And okay, here we go. So now what we're going to do is all of these test users have this application installed, right? So this is going to become a little tricky now. We need to have these test users friend each other, basically, right? So we're going to manage this test user's friends. So enter the names of the test users you want Patricia as a friend. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to copy this name right here. Manage this test user's friends. And I believe, so there we go. And what happens? Yeah, so that worked. Okay, now I'm going to copy this friend right here. So now I'm going to friend right there. And let's see here, we need to friend this guy. And then we're going to friend this guy. Okay, now I'm just going to, can I copy all these by any chance? No, I guess not. So now, let's see here. So now I'm going to do the same thing for this guy right here, Joey. When I manage this test user's friends, I'm just going to copy. Okay, so Patricia's already there. Right, because we added, it's a two-way connection because we already added Patricia. We already added Joe to Patricia. And so then we're just going to do that. And then we're going to do two more. Then we'll stop. Okay, great. So now we have a couple of friends, right? And now what we need to do is we need to log into those friends on the mobile app or on the Android application that we already have set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log out of my current account. So let me log out here. And because what we need to do is we actually need to link those Facebook users to Parse, right? So if I refresh this, those users aren't going to show up, right? And that's because we have to log in using our application, and only then are we going to have that kind of like user data. And we need that user data because we are looking at pointers to those users in our target field in the photo target class, right? So I'm going to open up Facebook here. And okay, so is there a way I can shorten the email by any chance? I guess not. Okay, so I guess I'll have to type in that entire email, which is pretty annoying. And I'm going to set this password right now to something simple and easy I can remember. Okay, so I've signed in with the test user right here. Let me go jump right here. It's Patricia, whatever, right? So I logged in, and we know that Patricia is friends with a couple other people, right? And so we jump to Android Studio, and indeed we do have some friends now. So we have some data we can work with. So let me copy and paste this JSON into a little more readable format right here. And so here we go. I'm using this website called JSONEditorOnline.org, right? And this website is great because you can really easily see all of the JSON data, right? So it looks like we have each user's Facebook ID and name. And let's see here. So there's also some pagination going on if we want it. So if we have a really large list of users, for example, and if we have maybe like 300 users, right, we would only want maybe 25 results at a time. And so this pagination, if we just call this URL right here, right, if we just do this right here, then we wouldn't get it. We would see more data, right? We would see the rest of the users, but in this case we only have 4 users, and so we don't really need pagination. Anyways, so we have these users right here, we have their IDs, right? But notice that we don't have we have 2 users now, we have 2 parse users, but it says over here that we have 4 people who are friends and who are using the application. Well, this is because whenever we created the test users, Facebook automatically assigned those test users to our application, even though those users hadn't actually ever logged in before, right? And so because those users hadn't logged in before, then then they don't show up in Parse right here. Anyways, so I'm gonna log in with another test user just so we have 2 test users who are actually friends, and then we'll proceed from there. Actually, what I'm gonna do is rather than logging in and just waiting forever for Facebook to handle it, I'm just going to add these rows in manually. So the username, it doesn't really matter. I can literally just copy this guy right here. So I'm just going to copy the middle name right here. The password, it can just be whatever. And then let's see here, so Facebook, so this auth data, it's just Facebook followed by, I believe, the user ID. So let me put that in. Will it let us change that? And let me refresh. I don't know if we can actually change the auth data. Oops. Yeah, so it doesn't look like we can change the authentication data, but that's fine. What we're going to do is we're going to add one more column in. This column, it's going to be a let's make it a string, and it's just going to be the user's Facebook ID. So every user on Facebook has an ID, right? And if we look here in this JSON, we'll see that we have these IDs for these users. So we're going to take these IDs and then we're going to match them up to parse users. And that's how we know who we're going to target. So let us now do this. We're going to take this fetch friends method, right? And then what we're going to do is when the user has taken the photo, we're going to fetch the friends. Let's see, what else are we going to do? We need a callback method, right? So we need a callback method, and what this callback method is going to do is it's going to have a list of parse users whom we can target. So what we're going to do is we need an interface. So let's create an interface right here. What should we call it? Private interface on friends ready. And so then this interface, it's going to, the method is going to be, let's call this friends ready listener, and then on friends ready, and it's going to be an array list. Or it doesn't even have to be an array list. It can just be a list. Make it a little more abstract right here. And then it's going to be in a list of parse users. So friends, right? And now what we're going to do is we are going to accept a friends ready listener parameter right here in the fetch friends method. And inside of this fetch friends call right here, we're going to instantiate the listener using an anonymous inner class. And then inside of that class, we're going to save the photo. Now, because we're inside the anonymous inner class, we can't just use variables that are outside of the class unless they're final or unless they're instance variables. So we're going to have to make this parameter right here final. And now we're not going to get any compile time errors. And so then what we want to do is we want to make sure that the list of friends is not null. If the list of friends isn't null, then we're going to save the photo, and inside of the save photo method, we are going to then target all of those friends. So let's see here. We need a list of parse user of targets, basically, right? So we need a list of targets. And if we look here, what are we going to do? We will need to basically instantiate a bunch of these photo targets right here. All right, fair enough. So one step at a time, I guess, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to create another method, private void create photo targets. And so then what we are going to do is we're going to pass in a photo. And we are going to, let's see here, we're going to pass in a list of parse users who are the targets, right? And then what we're going to do inside of this callback right here, when the photo has been saved, is we're going to just do this. And there we go. So now that we've done that, the next step is to create a photo target object is equal to new photo target. And then in this target method, we need to set the photo, right? Because every photo target needs to have some kind of, photo. And then we need to set the target, in which case the target is the, so I messed up slightly here. We're actually going to need to loop through the targets. So for parse user target inside targets, create all of these photo targets, and then target.set target. Okay, my naming isn't the best here, but whatever. Now, the cool thing is we could do target.save in background, but we would be basically doing tons of network calls. If we were targeting 20 users, then we would be doing 10 different network calls. And so a better thing to do is to batch these network calls inside of a single method call, right? So the way we do this is we create a list of photo targets,